Welcome
to
Angel
and
the Wiz.
the Wiz.
Yes. And I assume that you know who is who. I'm trusting you. No, teenage boys? Or just teenagers in general?
I was telling you a story about a teenage boy, and you're like, ooh, hold
Well,
that thought. It's going to be a great topic.
Well, yeah, I want to get, because you talked about raising them and books and stuff like that. So it's kind of parenting from the left, coming in at it from the left side.
I suppose.
Okay, so how does the story begin? How'd you get involved?
A friend of mine has a 13-year-old stepson who has been getting in trouble at home.
Okay.
And so I have some things that need to be done around the house that I've planned to get done on my summer vacation, but they never get done because
Okay.
it's summer vacation as
Right.
well. So I asked if I could borrow this child for a couple days a
Okay.
week and have things done like restaining an old dresser,
Okay.
or sometimes just keeping up with some of the yard work, or folding towels. Like I'll wash a batch and I'll be like, here, fold these
Okay.
towels. Vacuuming and dusting, things like
Right,
that. And he does. The kid comes over sometimes because the parents work. Both parents work, and then there's he's got a younger sister, a 4-year-old sister.
Okay.
That goes to a babysitter. So what happens is during the day, mom and dad go off to work. Mom works sometime until 9 o'clock at night. Dad
Okay.
works until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So from like 9 until
Whenever the dad gets home.
yeah, this 13-year-old is by himself, and he's gotten
Okay.
into some trouble.
Okay, it's easy to imagine.
Yeah, and so he.
Now, what's your
he'll spend-
relationship? First, what's your relationship with the child? You already know the child. This isn't a stranger
No,
child.
no. I know the child.
Yeah,
I've met
okay.
him before. He's
Okay.
come over with dad a couple
Oh, okay,
times.
okay.
Because dad can't leave him alone.
I got you. Oh,
so
got you.
He'll come over with dad a couple times,
Okay.
or stepdad, dad. Anyway.
Right.
So a friend of mine, William, told me, I was telling him about this kid, and he goes, from my personal experience,
Right.
because William is 19,
Right.
he goes, you have to occupy
Right.
our time, or we will occupy it,
Okay. And that's always dangerous.
and that's always dangerous, because if you don't have something for them to do, they can, then they get into trouble. They
Right.
don't always make the wisest decisions
Right.
ever.
Right.
Men never do. Just saying. Y'all know. Anyway, so he comes over and he stays. He most recently now has been staying like a couple nights. He'll come over on a Monday morning.
Okay.
And then dad will pick him up like a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon.
Okay.
And I occupy his time. Because I have the cats. Loves the cats. He takes very attentive to the cat's needs.
Mm-hmm.
He restains the dresser. He cleans the floors. Dusts.
Okay. He basically
Organizes papers. I pulled out like 4 boxes from the garage of, like, when I clean, I just throw crap in a box and put it in the garage
Sure, sure.
to sort later. And I
Uh-huh.
finally pulled them out. I said, "Here, sort these."
Okay.
And he did. It's a 3-hour a day job for like 3 days.
Now, question: is there any remuneration involved? Does he get paid for any of this? No, he's just helping
No,
out.
I mean, I'm going to give him some money. I'm going to
Excuse
give
me.
him some money at the end of the summer.
Okay.
But he doesn't. He doesn't get paid. He gets free room and board. It's kind of.
Okay,
He stays
okay.
the night. I feed him.
Okay. Now, does
So-
he know that you're going to give him that thing at the end? That's just
No.
something you're going to do. Okay.
Just
That's
gonna do
good.
it.
Okay. So far, how's it working out?
Great.
Okay.
And then what's happening is I'm introducing him to things that his parents might not have done.
Okay.
I take ballroom dance lessons, and
Okay.
I had to take him because not that I don't trust him to stay at the house alone.
Right. He's 13.
He's 13. I have cats that have issues. I don't think he would know what to do if something happened to one of the cats.
Right.
So it's better, and he wouldn't have a way to contact me.
Right,
so it's
right,
better
right.
that he comes with me. Whatever happens to the cats happens, and we deal with it when we come home.
Right.
And so I took him to the ballroom dance lessons. He loved it.
Right.
Loved it so much that on our way back to the house, he asked if he can call his mom, because
Right.
he wanted to tell his mom all about the lessons and ask
Okay.
if he could take them. So it's probably something no one would have thought to do with him.
Right, of
But
course.
he's got an interest in something, which
Right.
now has leverage
Okay.
with mom and dad
Okay.
for, you don't want to always use it as a reward system,
Right.
but you need to have something that can be taken away if things get out of control at home.
Okay.
And that's kind of how my parents worked with us too. If,
Okay.
you know, if there was a limit of our misbehavior, and
Right.
if we crossed that line, did
Right.
something extreme,
Right.
we lost privileges.
Yeah, and then you
So,
have to do that,
yeah.
right?
And
Okay.
but the kids already he's got no cell phone. He can't play video games, and I
Right.
follow that rule at my house. He doesn't play video games.
Okay.
So and
Because he had acted out at other times.
yeah,
Okay.
and then he doesn't really like to watch TV.
Okay.
You know, so you leave a
Oh, geez,
13-year-old.
yeah, I'm scared now.
Well, right. So now you leave a 13-year-old home alone for 5 hours, and who can't play video games.
Right.
You know,
But then
and,
he doesn't like to watch
and he was
TV.
like, you know, like, what is he going to do?
How can that be possible?
Yeah. Well.
Oh, I understand. I'm
So-
just kidding. I'm making a
Yeah.
joke
No. Well.
because I can't even imagine.
He told me, it's like, I don't really like to watch TV,
Oh.
but at night I'll go to bed because I'm old. I'll go to bed at like 10 or 11, and he'll stay up to God knows how long, and he'll ask me, can I watch music?
Right.
So okay, as long
Sure.
as you're not
Right.
blaring it, and he stays up and I don't know, watches music videos or something.
So far, so good. The
Yeah.
things are working out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So-
I had you know, some of it is dad and mom don't know what to do with a teenage boy.
Okay.
They will, by nature, be defiant towards their parents.
Okay.
And I asked him
As a teenager.
As a teenager,
They
I
act
know.
out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. I was. I
Right.
hated when my parents gave me rules.
Right.
But it when he is with me, he's the perfect child.
Okay.
And I asked him one day. I said, "How come you're so good with me and with my friend, who we kind of
Right.
send him back and forth between the houses?
Right.
And how come you're so good with us, but I hear all these horror stories?"
Right.
And he goes, "Well, because I don't want you to think my parents are bad parents."
That's nice.
So stuff's going right. They're raising him the right way.
Right.
He's just being defiant. And then I
Right.
think some of the other stuff is, as a teenage boy, they don't know how to deal with emotion. You don't see emotional male role models.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, because
So,
everything that's on television, well, he doesn't watch
Yeah.
TV, but still, let's use that as an example. Everything that's on TV makes the male in the household a jerk.
and I know that dad has a tendency to tease, because his dad does it to me. You know,
Okay.
but that's just dad. And so I think he sees that, and so
Tease like how?
tease as.
I mean, to try and teach him things, or to
It's just
try to
dad's-
entertain him,
it's
or that's just how he is. He
dad's
teases.
nature.
Okay.
Yeah, and I take it. It's funny. You know, he
Okay.
makes jokes, and I laugh at them.
Right.
And if they're about me, they're about me. You know, I have 6 cats. Dad
Right.
walks into the house, and the
Right.
jokes start coming, and
Right.
you
That's
just got to
just-
laugh at them.
Hey, right, okay. Does
Yeah.
stand up.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of like that.
Okay.
But
I know about that.
the kid is, it was like, please don't tell Dad I like ballroom dancing. I said, why?
'Cause
And he
he's
goes,
afraid he'll
"'Cause
tease him."
I don't want to be teased.
Now, see, that's important. That's a very
And
important.
so I had to sit down with Dad at one point, and I said,
Okay.
look, here's what I'm going to tell you. I know that something happened somewhere, or he's witnessing this behavior, and he feels that if he tells you things,
right.
you're going to
gonna
make fun of him. You know,
Bad.
yeah, and that's
Because that starts that wall.
and Dad says I would never do that. I said
And he
either
doesn't even know it.
either you have,
Right.
or he has seen it enough that he's afraid it's going to happen to him.
That's
so
right.
it's
So my next question is, now how did Dad take that conversation? Did he take it the way it was meant? That this is, I'm taking a real chance by telling you this, but I care enough about the child to let you know that he is guarded against you.
yeah. Dad took it well.
Okay.
Yeah, because nobody has said that before.
Okay.
The kid does well in school.
Okay. Seems like the family has love.
There is love, yeah,
Okay.
and there's love. There's dysfunction as well.
Okay.
But there's also love.
All right.
And so you see it, but sometimes it's just a third party saying.
Okay.
And I think that my opinion gets valued a little bit more than, let's say, your opinion.
Right.
Because I teach. I see
Okay.
teenage boys every day.
Okay.
And I deal with them and have sometimes had to assist in parenting them without the parents even knowing about it.
Right.
You know, because they tell me issues. They don't feel comfortable. They'll tell me, and it's, you know,
Illustrative example.
a boy comes up to me.
Excuse me.
He comes up to me and he says, you know, I think I might have gotten my girlfriend pregnant.
Oh, great.
You know?
Here we go.
So he's scared to go to mom or dad,
Yeah.
he should be.
Yeah.
So he asked me for advice, and I'm
Well,
like,
wait. Let me just say,
"Woo."
I don't want you to lose your train of thought, but I want to throw out, maybe not as he should be. I can understand that he would feel the guilt of it, but in a perfect world, we would want him to be able to go to his
Right,
parents.
want him to go to the parents, but I think it's
Easy to understand.
fear of how to approach them.
Yeah, and when what
Yeah.
they'll say, and they
Yeah.
might go right off the roof, you
Right.
know?
So then it becomes a counseling session. Well, are you for sure that she is?
Right.
Well, no, I don't. Well, have you told your parents that you're dating this girl? Yes, they've met. You know, and it's just things like
And
that.
what kind
So
of
you
age group is this that you're talking about? In this particular instance, you know?
14 to 18.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
but so that, you know, but you have to coach them, and that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing with both the son and the stepdad, is coaching them on how to, you know, the stepson will say things. Oh, but he says this, dad says this, dad does that, and well, have you ever told him that you don't really like that?
And just sometimes they don't know how.
Yeah, and so you have to coach and you have to explain. And the son is definitely a follower. So when
Okay.
given a group, when in a group of friends
Right.
who definitely make poor choices,
Right. He's going to go along with
he's going to go along with it because he's too scared to make it up, to make his own decision.
it. Okay. Or maybe he doesn't have quite the tools yet to make his own decision. So, you know, here, let me give you an illustrated example from my end. Just as about disengagement. I was at work the other day, and a young man, we have these little tests that we do at work, okay? And a young man was being tested. And you don't know it when you're being tested because the testers are not, you know, they're watching you from
Right.
afar. And this young man was being tested. And another of his fellow workers, came over to him and talked to him. And the testing period was 20 minutes. And this person came over and they engaged in conversation the entire time. There was no way that he could even be tested because he didn't do anything but talk. And I don't want to say that he got in trouble for it, but
It didn't
Yeah.
reflect well on him.
no. And I mean,
It didn't reflect well on the other person who initiated it.
Well, you see, that's the problem. And when I was talking to them about this, or to the tester involved, that was what I did. What I raised my hand and I said, you know, the problem may not be this young man, but the problem may be his skill set does not have what is necessary to disengage from someone
Right.
who has engaged him. He doesn't know how to
Right.
break out of that and
And
just
be polite
say,
about it.
and be polite about it and say, listen,
'Cause if
I'm
it was
sorry, I got to go
me-
back to work.
Yeah, if it was me, I'd be like, I'm done talking to you. Go away.
Oh yeah, well, so
Because
you
I have
could
said
get away.
that. Yeah,
You-
and I've
okay.
had said that.
Okay.
I'd be like, I don't want to talk to you. Go away.
You know, and I find I can mean and I really think that in this particular time, it was good that I had this opportunity to speak with the tester because I think that hadn't been on his mind.
Right.
And I think that opened him up to the possibility that, you know, and maybe it was. This is my remember we don't really talk about these things. It was just an observation. But so skill sets, you know, I mean, and we've talked about this so many times, but I mean, sometimes it's hard. People, I don't say they want to say they cling, but sometimes people just do what they do. And you've got to
Because
have
they
the
haven't
ability
been
to
in-
stop them.
Yeah, they haven't been instructed or coached otherwise.
Yeah, and sometimes, because I mean, I find myself in that sometimes somebody will float down and they want to talk to me. And I would talk to them, I'm measuring the time, the whole time we're talking to them. And if I reach a point, I just disengage because, you know, and sometimes I'll tell them, you know, and there's been times when I've walked over and I've seen two people together and I said, you better protect yourself. And you know, don't just stand around and do this. So I think skill sets are really important. That's what it sounds like here. So it's really good. You know, this interaction that you're having in this family, you know, it might be a good thing. because it's very illuminating to find out that he didn't. But you know what? That probably happens a lot when you think
Yeah, oh, yeah.
kids and parents and stuff like that.
Girls and boys are always approaching me, asking me, how do I think, or and it's. It's coaching them. You have to coach them on how to approach it. But you have to also understand the family dynamic, because what you don't want to do is send them into a situation that could get them in trouble. So I end up having lots of conversations with these kids and finding out what are their parents like, who do they live with, are their parents together, what kind of conversations have they had with their parents in the past, and so on. So
you're doing background prior to, good.
Yeah, because because all it takes as an educator, all it takes is one student to do something that you said, get in trouble, and then
point at you,
and then say, well, she told me to do it.
Right.
So I always try and get the student to come to that decision on their own, that maybe I should approach it this way, and I like to give them options too.
Okay.
So I might lay out, well, here are 2 or 3 ways I would approach it.
Right.
Which one do you think would work best for you?
Okay, that sounds safe.
Yeah. So with this one, because with this 13-year-old, because I'm good friends with Dad.
Okay.
And
I hope we'll still be good friends with you. Don't tell him to watch this episode.
And I've never met Mom. I've had some communication with her, but I've never met her.
Okay.
But I think that I know that she's very appreciative of me.
Doing this?
Yeah, relieving her some,
Okay.
because I know that there's frustration. I know that there's frustration because when I was a teenager, there was frustration.
Okay.
My parents would walk away from me because they couldn't say anything nice.
Right.
I irritated them to the
Right.
point where they just needed to walk away,
Wow.
or else they probably would have said things that would have scarred me for life. And I get that.
Right.
I get that now.
Oh, now.
So-
And let me just check my time. Okay, now. Pardon me. I've been sick this week, so please forgive me. Not sick. I've had a sore throat. I had sore throat and coughing, and I don't know where it came from. And this is the first day of this week that I've kind of sounded like myself. Do I sound like myself? Do I still sound a little? Anyway, I've been trying to get away from that. Okay, illustrative example. Scarred for life. Give us an example of what you're talking about. If you say something and oh boy, even I have one. But go ahead.
I remember one time when my mom couldn't walk away from me, she slapped me across the face and called me an effing bitch.
Ah.
And I was 15 or 16.
Right. And you probably were, right?
And I probably was, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to. That's actually, I've kind of been. If you look at the dynamic of, I'm the oldest.
Right.
I have that tendency. I will stand my ground. I will be stubborn about certain things.
Right. These
but-
people all just think you're
But I
sweet.
get it done.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I do.
my sister, my sister got married and I was the maid of honor. My other sister was the matron of honor. So
What do you have, 2 sisters?
I've got 2 sisters. 2 young. I'm the oldest.
Okay, any brothers?
Two
Just 2
young- no,
sisters?
just 2 sisters.
Okay, 3 sisters.
3 girls.
Okay, 3 girls.
My dad earned
Poor
out very
guy.
gray hair on his head.
I bet. He's earned every one.
Because right after we got done with puberty, my mom went into menopause.
Oh,
He
wow.
didn't have a break.
Wow.
Anyway, my sister was getting married, and she goes, Natalie, I need you to handle these things for me.
Right.
Before, during, and after the ceremony. Can
Right.
you? And I said, well, I looked at her and said, well, normally that's the best man's job.
Right.
And she goes, well, I know that you'll just get it done.
Right.
I said, okay. So I walked up to the best man at one point and I said, I've got to tend to my sister
Right.
generally, and then I have to handle these other things. You are going to do this. And he just kind of looked at me and it was like, well, I said, no, let me tell you. You are going to do this, and then
Right.
I will find you at the end of the ceremony to double check that you have done it because I won't be able to do it.
Right.
And then it was done. It was taken care of.
Right.
I think I scared that bus. But that's kind of what I mean by that. I am, my other sister's a little wishy-washy.
Right.
The other one's got learning how to do it because she's got kids, but I'm
Right.
always been the authoritative one.
Right.
This is going to happen. Period. Done.
Oh, but sometimes you have to do that. Even when I was a little kid, when I was little Ricky, oh God, please. But anyway, even very young, the teachers used to say, well, I remember Mrs. Rogers, she was our teacher, and she used to say, you know what, well, one day I met her years later. She says, how come there's no kids like you anymore? I said, what do you mean? She says, I used to send you out for something, and you came back with it. You didn't come back with an excuse that you couldn't find it.
Yeah.
You didn't- Now, but then, because I'm like that too, you know, although I think probably with me, the idea was, what, you want me to go out of the room to go do something? Oh, I could do this, you know what I mean? So that's why I went to the shrink, because it was during school. Hey, when I was a young kid, this will segue right into this conversation. When I was I think a freshman in high school or something like that, between freshman year and sophomore year, the Beatles happened, and I grew my hair long, and they couldn't deal with that in my town. I was the only person in this town to have long hair. And I think this was kind of one of the impetus things. Anyway, the long story short is that they sent me to the school psychologist. Okay.
Because you had long hair.
I don't know if it was that or
Or a couple
I
other
was
issues.
odd.
You're odd. Okay.
I was odd. Yeah, I was odd. I mean that was the only one that I can think of. But I was always playing in bands and stuff like that. I was always an oddball, you know. So I went to. Now there's plenty of other people that played in bands and everything else, but no, I wasn't going to cut my hair.
In your town, you're special.
Yeah, I was, yeah. I've
Okay.
always had
So you
that.
go to the school
that-
psychologist.
So they sent me to the school psychologist, and she gives me these ink blot tests. And I had to be really careful how I handle this next segment. I did the ink blot tests, and I don't know if you've ever seen the ink blot tests when they open up, but they have a tendency, they look a certain way. You know what I mean? They got like
Perverted.
they
Sexually.
got a shape.
Yeah, and I.
Okay, okay. And at first I was
Dirty
telling her
man.
other things. And then after a while, one time I took a chance. And I said, well, actually, it looks like this. And she said, oh, okay. And then I was honest with her, and I said, actually, a bunch of those.
They all look like that.
Right, they all look like that.
They're all
you know
the
what I mean?
same.
They're all the same. You know what I mean? So when my mom went up to talk to her, she said something about, I think your son was just trying to shock me. And I think my mom told, no, he's just telling you the truth. But in any event, so they decided
You're normal.
that they decided that I should either, I don't know if you would say seek additional help, or I didn't have any brothers or sisters. I was an only child. So they decided I should go to a shrink. Okay? Now, when did they schedule the shrink?
During the
They
school day.
scheduled the shrink Tuesdays and Thursdays during school.
Best time to go.
Are you kidding me? Do you know I went for years? I mean,
The
are
shrink's
you-
like,
and I
dude,
walked
you're
there
fine.
and walked home.
Yeah, dude, you're fine. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
You don't understand what you're getting me out of.
You know what I mean? It was, but you know the funny thing is, he did do good. There was, and I didn't realize it until years later, first I learned a lot about psychology.
Imagine that.
I mean, in that time that I was with him, I learned, just like going to school. He had no idea that I was picking his brains every second that we were together. And it wasn't, and of course he was working on me too. So I used to come in. I'm sitting in his office. He's got a chair and a desk. And one day I said to him, oh, you don't have a couch like a regular psychologist? He said, oh, yeah, that's in the other room. I said, well, let's go in there. So we went in there, we sat down. It was really cool. He had a chair, sat there. And the picture was askew. And so while we're talking, I got up and I straightened the picture. Now, I got to tell you, there was never a time that I went back in that room that picture or another picture wasn't slightly off. And I don't know if he went in ahead of time to move it just to see if I would straighten it out, which he might have done.
I've done that before to
Really?
teachers.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
But so the point was, I went and it was very illuminating, and that's when I learned one of the things that you use in counseling that I use when I counsel people too, is it's most important just to listen to what they say, the words that they use to say the things that they say. That tells you a great deal. It gives you great insight, and you can then fashion information back to them in a way that they will understand it. And pardon me. So the learning thing that we're trying to share with you folks at home out of this is that if you're trying to communicate with somebody, it's very important that you listen to the things they say and the words that they use to describe the things they say, because that's the only way you're really going to have some way to anchor into them. Because if you're not using the words that they use, or making the connections with those terms the way they do, you might say something that they take absolutely and totally wrong.
The other thing I've learned is that parents and children, teenagers are very reactive
Okay.
in nature. You say something, they're going to react with raw emotion. They don't ever stop and think.
Okay.
What parents are doing now, especially in underprivileged homes,
Okay.
is they're becoming just as reactive as their children.
Okay.
So I say something, you get angry, you yell at me as the child.
Right.
I'm going to react back to that.
Okay.
And yeah, you're yelling at me now as a parent. I'm going to yell at you because you
Okay.
said. And then it just becomes a huge thing. And I think a lot of it, I think, is communication, where the parents are forgetting that they are parents.
Right. Oh, I believe
And
that.
it's very
oh,
hard.
sure. They become
and
defensive.
And when I have students who yell at me, like out of nowhere, students will yell at me. It takes a lot of self-control for me to not yell back, because
Right.
that's the instinct. And I know that's the instinct for parents too. You want to yell back at the child,
Right.
and you can't. You have to stay calm, and you have to, sometimes it's just letting them get out their emotion. I have had students yell at me. They might have had a really bad class. You know,
Right.
they got in trouble or something, forgot the homework, they failed a test.
Right.
So they're angry at the world. They come into my class, and I ask them if they could sit down in their assigned seat, and then they start yelling at me.
Right.
And it's, you know, instead of me yelling back at them, sometimes you just have to wait that couple minutes, let them get it out of their
Right.
system.
So you sit down there?
And then, are you finished? You know, and I say that, are you finished?
Right.
And the kid just looks at me, yeah? Okay, no, can you sit in your assigned seat?
Right.
Okay, you know, and that's it. And the whole rest of the class is like, oh my God, he's gonna, you know, but that's
Right,
not
he's
it.
gonna die, right?
Yeah, it's, you know, but I think sometimes parents forget to do that, is that they're yelling, you know, they react to what the child says, and then they forget to, you have to stay calm.
That you have to be the parent.
You have to be the calm one in an argument with a child.
And that husband and wife, too.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, let me just say, because we're almost out of time, I want to say that Dr. Vincent Fontana at the New York Children's Foundling Home had a great book about breaking the cycle of abuse. And many, many years ago, he was on the show, and I was very young, and I was a jackass. But he is a great authority, and he might have something that you want to read if you're having, you know, communications problems. Dr. Vincent J. Fontana, I think it's J, New York Children's Foundling Home. And there are books.
There are books. I just went to Amazon.com, searched teenage boy. You know, I filtered down to like
Right.
parenting.
Right.
And then in that group, I searched teenage boys, and there was like 15, 20 books that popped up that had 4 or 5 star ratings. And I got them, you know,
We have
as
to
a
go.
gift. So, okay, we have to go.
Have to go.
Bye.
Do
something
something
good every day.
Good girl. Bye.